Hello and welcome into this week's edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's Cup Rewind, we're looking back at Sunday's 60th annual Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500. 325 laps, 500.5 miles around the 1.54 mile Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. This was an interesting race, not quite what I thought it would be, and not quite what I think a lot of people thought it would be. If you watched the preview show from this morning, I predicted it would be kind of like a Daytona-Talladega style pack race, at least for the first few laps until the tire fall-off started. And in a sense, it kind of was, but it was a pack, but it wasn't really a Daytona-Talladega style pack. There was actually some really good racing for the first few laps after a restart. And then they kind of spread out, and it was more or less a typical Atlanta race after about 5 laps or so. They kind of got the effect they wanted with this aero package, but at the same time, it didn't last as long as I think they had hoped it would. We'll see how Vegas works with a track that's a little more recently repaved, and there's going to be less off-throttle time. We'll see how much different that is this coming week when we get the full rollout of the aero package. This week's, again, wasn't exactly the same as the aero package we're going to get for most of this season. We had 5 cautions in this race for a total of 30 laps. Lap 35 was a competition caution. We had some heavy rain overnight in the Atlanta area, so that's just the typical norm for NASCAR. Throw a caution a few laps into the race the day after it rains just to check tire wear and make sure everything is looking okay there. Nothing else happened in Stage 1. That ended at lap 85. Your Stage 1 winner was Kyle Larson. He had a very fast car today. Good to see he's back in race-winning form. Stage 2, nothing really happened there caution-wise either. That ended at lap 170. Your Stage 2 winner was Kevin Harvick. Now, if we look at past Atlanta races, that's not really a surprise. Kevin Harvick has a very good track record at Atlanta. Even though he only has 2 wins, he's usually very fast here. But if we've looked at this weekend up to this point, he's not had a lot of speed. So it was really good to see him running up front when the rest of the weekend didn't really look like he was going to. If you saw the preview show this morning, again, I'll reference that again. We talked about that, how he really hadn't had any speed this weekend, and I was concerned that we were going to have a very atypical Kevin Harvick day at Atlanta. Lap 223 had a caution for debris on the backstretch. And lap 274, caution for fluid on pit road. 26 lead changes in this race among 9 drivers. Kyle Larson led the most laps in this one, 142 laps led by the driver of the number 42 McDonald's Chevrolet. He led it for 7 total times in this race, 142 total laps. 45 laps were led by Kevin Harvick. 41 were led by Ryan Blaney. 36 led by Eric Almirola, 33 to Brad Keselowski, 22 to Joey Logano. 4 laps went to Martin Truex. 1 lap apiece went to Kurt Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. All right, so let's get into the results for this one, the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500. He led the most laps. It was Kyle Larson, but he did not win this race. Brad Keselowski took home the victory in this race, his second victory at Atlanta in the past 3 years. A very good run by Keselowski at the end. Truex had tracked him down at the end, was right on his bumper at the end of the race, but didn't quite have enough time to get there. Had gotten to the bumper, just hadn't been able to find a way around yet. Truex said after the race that he figured he probably needed about another lap, and he probably would have gotten Keselowski. So if this lap had been 326 laps, we might be talking about the first Martin Truex Jr. win for Joe Gibbs Racing and the second JGR win of the season in 2 races. But we're not. We're talking about Brad Keselowski's win, the first win for the Ford Mustang in its second outing. So good run for them. They had a lot of fast forwards today. And it's interesting to me, I think, that the Mustang won today in its first outing in the Cup Series. And also, if you saw the Xfinity race, or if you saw our rewind show this morning for yesterday's Xfinity race, Christopher Bell won that one in the Toyota Supra's second outing in the Xfinity Series. So, Toyota and Ford have really stepped up here with their new models. Really the polar opposite of what we saw last year with the Chevrolet's Camaro. When they rolled it out, they had problems for a lot of the year, and really, it almost kind of seems like most of the Chevys really kind of haven't even picked it up for the start of this season. We had some fast Chevys today, but there wasn't a lot of them up there. Speaking of Chevys, Kurt Busch came home in the third position. A good run for him as well. His second run with Chip Ganassi Racing. Good to see him running up front. I know a lot of us weren't sure if he was going to do very well with them this season, but it's a good start for him there in that one car. Kevin Harvick ended up in the fourth position, and Clint Bowyer rounded out the top five. He had probably the fastest car. He said it after the race, probably the best I've heard it. He had the fastest car in a straight line. He just didn't really have the handling to keep it up there around the lead for most of the day. Rest of your top 10, Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, Eric Almirola. A great run for Chris Buescher in ninth. Those JTG Doherty cars were really fast today. Ryan Preece was also fast, running in the top 10 most of the day until he had an incident with BJ McLeod on pit road in the mid portions of the race that really tore up that car and really tore up his chances for the day. But a lot of speed out of that JTG Doherty bunch. I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the season. If this is an indication for the rest of the season, I think we're set up to see some really good runs out of the 37 and the 47 this season. And a great run for Daniel Suarez here in the 10th position. Finally getting a good run here in this 41 car, trying to get his legs under him at Stewart-Haas Racing. 11th through 20th, Daytona 500 winner Denny Hamlin came home in 11th. Kyle Larson, after leading the most laps, got mired back in the pack at one point and never really quite got back up there. 12th was as far as he could make it through the field. William Byron, your Daytona 500 pole winner, 17th on the day, last car on the lead lap. Chase Elliott, all of these Hendrick cars were just kind of really off today. We see Alex Bowman there in 15th. He was the highest running Hendrick car on the day in 15th. None of them were really any kind of contenders on the day. I'm not really sure what was up with that, but we see Chase Elliott here in 19th. Daniel Hemrick in 20th. He had a great run going. He was 4th very late in the race until he had a flat tire late and had to come down pit road, and that really ruined his great day that he had going. Daniel Hemrick was set up for a really good day, and that excites me going forward in this season. If we're going to see two rookies in Daniel Hemrick and Ryan Preece running very well this season, it's been a while since we've had a really good rookie battle between two rookies that not only were fast, but these two might get to the point later in the season where we're talking about a Daniel Hemrick or a Ryan Preece win, which is really cool. It's been a while since we've had rookies that are in that position. 21st through 30th, the other Childress car down here in 21st, that being Austin Dillon. Penske teammates Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, 22nd, 23rd. They were both really fast on the day. We talked about them. Blaney led 41 laps. Logano led 22. Unfortunately, they both had tire issues late as well and came home in the 20s instead of where they probably should have been, up much higher in the field. I can't talk today. Jimmy Johnson down here in 24th, the last Hendrick car in the finishing results. I don't know what was up there. I don't know what was up with the entire Hendrick Motorsports group, but especially Jimmy Johnson. They didn't bring any speed this time around, and that worries me going forward that we may be seeing another season like we did last year out of Jimmy Johnson in this 48 car. Matt Dibenedetto is another one, 26th on the day, and that's about where he ran most of the day. That 95 car never really had any speed today, which kind of surprises me because we saw a lot of speed out of him in Daytona. And again, that car is like the 5th Gibbs car now. They kind of replaced Furniture Row when Furniture Row left. It's interesting that they were that far off in Atlanta. not really sure what to make of that. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that 95 car for the rest of the season and see if this was just a one-off, or maybe the switch to Toyota really hasn't done them as much good as we thought it would. Last page, 31st through 37th. Ryan Preece down here in that 35th position. He got caught up in that incident on pit road with BJ McLeod and had to retire after that. 35th on the day after a very good run by Ryan Preece. And that's your look at results from the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500s. Let's head over to the Media Center and we'll see what your top finishers on the day had to say after the second race of the season.
Well, I think when you go back and know what certainly Mark meant to our team as we were building it over time, and it really set a mark that in some cases we thought no we would ever beat it. But Brad's had that on his windshield. He's been looking at that now for a year, and he said that this was the year he was going to make it happen. So I congratulate him and certainly everybody on the team, and Paul, the job you guys did putting that car together. But that's in the record book now, and it's he's going to make it tougher for anybody else in the future to get there. So it was a huge win for us, and obviously for the Mustang, we worked so hard on it. And I'd have to give NASCAR a real good grade on the racing today, because you could race, you could come up, you could fall back. Some people obviously maybe didn't like that, maybe you couldn't pass, but I felt overall it made a big difference. Brad might have some other comments, but overall I thought it was a great day.
I'd say at the moment, Jacob, I think it's a little bit of I'm in a little bit of a daze. It's a long, tough race, and trying to rewind it all in my head, what all happened, and then think about what it means is a little difficult to do in the moment. But I think it's certainly a really big day for us, one that I'll reflect on for a long time. All wins are special. There's no wins that don't mean something, but some just mean more. And this one means more for a number of reasons, whether it be the win record for Team Penske. That's certainly very special to me. And when you look at the list of drivers, it's a pretty big list, and it's big not just with the amount of drivers, but big with the superstar and the superstar power, I guess you'd call it. Just to be on that list as a winner means a lot, but to be on top of it means even more. So that's special to me. And then I think, winning the first race, whenever there's a major rules change, I think it means something to me personally, because, I think when you look at, kind of the elite race car drivers over the years, being able to win in multiple disciplines, especially in NASCAR, is really what sets them apart. So there's no, maybe clearer mark than when there's rules changes as significant as this year. And so to be able to win and under those terms and kind of leave that mark is a big one for me personally, and for our team as well. And then I would add in the Ford Mustang. It seems like Ford, since I've been a part of Ford Performance here for the last 5.5 years, each year just kind of incrementally ramps up their efforts in NASCAR. And switching from the Fusion to the Mustang was a big showing of the commitment that Ford has to NASCAR long term, and therefore it's always great to kind of leave your mark on that legacy, and to be the first one to win under those terms as well. So a lot of different things going through my mind, I guess, Jacob. It's hard to really put them all together, and I'm hot and tired, but it's certainly a very special day.
Yeah, no, I think we're excited about the new Mustang. Obviously, it's shown some good strength. I think not only at the Speedways last week at Daytona, but as we came here this weekend and saw, how fast the Stewart-Haas cars were in qualifying, and then we were able to follow that up with some really strong cars today. There's still a lot to be learned. The Mustang is a little different for us, and we're trying to figure that out. But with that being said, the rules change for this year, and the new package is as much of a change. So we're excited about it. I think there's still a lot to be learned, and anytime there's a massive rules change like this, like Brad talked about earlier, there's a lot of opportunity there, and we take a lot of pride in being able to get a head start on everyone, and it was good to see all the Team Penske cars lead laps today and run as strong as they did. So There's still a lot to learn. I think you'll see some different things at some different tracks as we move through the beginning part of the season here. But today was a good start for us for sure.
And we'll take a look at your playoff grid, 2 races into the season before wrapping up here tonight. And, of course, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, now your 2 drivers locked into the playoffs for 2019. Kevin Harvick currently leads the drivers that are in on points. And look, lo and behold, look who the 2 drivers on top of the points drivers are. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, the 2 strongest drivers from 2018, picking up right where they left off here in 2019. Should be an interesting year going forward if these 2 end up kind of being the dominant drivers again. Then, of course, Truex showed a lot of muscle today, too, so we could be back in a Big 3 scenario this year. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, and I know that's probably not a good thing for the sport if only 3 drivers are dominating, especially if it's 2 years in a row and it's the same 3 drivers, but we might be back in that situation. Early on, it's kind of looking like that might be a possibility. So just might want to be prepared for that. If that's something you don't necessarily want to see, probably might want to be prepared for it. Otherwise, looking here at the playoff grid, we see 3 Hendrick cars down here, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And then, of course, Alex Bowman right now the highest Hendrick car in 13th. Again, not a great start to the season for these guys, but we'll see going forward how they are able to do. Daniel Suarez now has cracked the top 20, trying to get his way up toward the playoffs. Ty Dillon still sitting here 19th. Decent start to the season for Ty Dillon here, 19th in points. But that's your look at the playoff grid following the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500, and I believe that will do it for us on this edition of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind show. Pole position coming up as usual, premiering at 8 p.m. Monday evening to recap everything that happened this week. The all 3 NASCAR races from Atlanta, and then, of course, NHRA was in action this weekend as well, so we'll be talking about that on pole position as well, just quickly recapping you on everything that happened this weekend. But I believe that'll do it. So if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. And while you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do that, and it helps us out so much when you do that. But at that, this has been the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rewind show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.